Welcome to the Didi and Lital Show. Advice, thoughts, and stories from a married couple on cybersecurity, technology, and life in general. Now here are your hosts, Didi and Lital.
Hello and welcome to the Didi and Lital Show. It's another week. Hello, Didi. How's it going?
It's awesome. The Bruins are back on top. It's St. Patty's Day.
Yeah, he made me wear green, even though it's like bluish green. I couldn't find a real green shirt.
It's the only day of the year where I wear Celtics gear because they suck. But that's kind of my opinion. Anyways.
You're not into basketball in general.
I'm not
That's
into
not
basketball.
your thing.
And, you know, when you grow up in the Middle East, everybody grows up a Lakers fan. So I tone it down and wear my Celtics gear occasionally. And that's it. Anyway, happy St. Patty's.
Happy St. Patty's.
Today we have a very awesome guest, Sravish. Please introduce yourself.
Welcome, Sravish. How are you doing?
Thank you, Didi. Thank you, Lital. I'm Sravish. I'm the founder and CEO of TrustCloud, and I'm wearing green as well on my hand.
Nice.
Hey.
Awesome. Awesome. The reason I wanted Sravish to come over is because he helped me twice now get our SOC 2. Which is a pain. A pain.
I think there is a competitor of your company that has awesome advertising saying SOC 2.
So part of the reason I did ask Sravish to come along is because I love his advertising campaign. I love the way they do marketing. I love the CS motion. And also I love the product and how it really, really helped smaller companies like ourselves get into the SOC space a lot faster, because it's easier to do SOC 2 when you start, when you're small. When you have, you know, about 3 commits in your GitHub and you start your SOC 2, it's a lot easier than when you do SOC 2 when you have, you know, 5 years of work that now you need to backwash and whitewash.
So maybe before we dive into that, for those of us that are not as familiar, let's talk about what is SOC 2, why is it important, and then we'll get into your approach, how you're solving it. So what's SOC 2?
Yeah, if we take a step back, I started TrustCloud with a simple premise. I think compliance sucks. And everybody that's doing a business-to-business company, B2B startup, you have to prove to larger companies that you have an efficient security program, an efficient privacy program, and you meet one or more certifications based on the business that you're selling to. So if you're selling to technology companies, you need something like SOC 2. If you're selling to healthcare companies, you need HIPAA or HITRUST, or the acronym soup in compliance just keeps going higher and higher. So that's part one. Part two is you have to answer security questionnaires. So even if you have compliance and if you have certifications, if you're in sales and marketing and customer success, every deal requires you to answer security questionnaires. And friends should not send friends security questionnaires.
Yes. So you remember the purple shirt Omri wears with somebody punching somebody else in the face? So my younger son wears that shirt, your shirt, all the time.
I love it.
He loves it. I need to send you a picture of that. Cool.
I want him to live in a world when he grows up and he's in business that security questionnaires do not exist anymore. That's the world I want to create.
It would have been so much nicer if like something just, you know, senses that you have it, you know, checks it without the human being needs to go and do the questionnaire, right? Yeah, that's where technology should be.
It's even
totally right.
Get into the state of mind. So I love your recent campaign about the trust versus fear approach, because the way a lot of companies do it is they have their own program and they built their own questionnaire. Now, nobody really invents the wheel. Everybody has a variation of cake light, a variation of something, and they send you something that's based on existing standard. Sometimes it's a 5-year-old standard, because we had to attest multiple times that we secure our firewalls, which we have none because we're a 100% cloud-based company, and the test that we have endpoint controls on endpoints we don't own, and we get rid of the media that AWS does. This is a little bit of the problems with these questionnaires is they're stuck with what legal approved 5 years ago. versus the, hey, let me tell you what I do, and you check
Yeah.
from your side what you not want, and let's get
Totally right.
and get to a middle ground. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm listening to your campaigns.
So,
Totally right. Like Didi, you're wearing a smartwatch. Lital, you're wearing a smartwatch.
yeah.
Yep.
Imagine if you went to your doctor and instead of clicking on a button in your smartwatch where your doctor could see your blood pressure and so on, you gave them your New Year's resolution for health. And you expected your doctor to make a diagnosis of your health based on your New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
That's the state of the art. That's the state of the art in this industry, right? You're giving your New Year's resolution. I want to sleep well. I'm going to eat salads every day. I'm going to exercise every day. And you're asking the doctor to make a prognosis based on that versus what is your temperature? What is your weight? What's your blood pressure? What's your blood test report say? So why don't we do that for security and privacy?
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Yeah. It's also that,
if
that
we can
continuous versus one point in time, right?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. That's when you move from compliance, which is a check the box activity that everybody hates, but everybody has to do, to trust. Because now I can see data. I can see what you're doing well. I can see what you're not doing well, and we can have a conversation around it.
So you're saying, I'll reiterate that by moving to a continuous monitoring versus a one point of time, you're moving from, okay, it's check the box, it's compliance, to trust because there is visibility over time to what's going on. Is that what we are talking about?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
If I went to a VP of marketing, and I'm saying VP of marketing, Lital, specifically for you, and I said, how many leads are we doing on a daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis? You have a system of record that's tracking.
Yep.
Why aren't we doing the same thing for security and privacy?
Yes.
So let me play devil's advocate.
Sure.
It's really hard because first I love to argue, and that's why I'm putting that point, because
that's great.
I agree with Sravish completely. But I'm thinking from, if I'm my old self in Cisco and I need to deal with a legal department that's bigger than half the startups in Boston combined. That's the size of their legal department, not to mention their legal budget. And they're saying, if you don't check all these boxes, you will get fired. They don't care if those boxes are real or meaningful. Sure. They say you have to check all these boxes because this is our CYA policy. How does continuous verification deal with legal departments? GRC.
It's a great idea. Yeah.
How does it deal with that?
Yeah, I think you have to do the same thing that we've done for other areas that had the same problem, which is you need to create a service level objective for security and privacy. And we need to put in contracts that people are not going to be healthy 100% of the time.
Yep.
And there is a period of time in which certain security controls and certain privacy controls can fail. And that's okay. It's expected. But you have a period of time in which you have to remediate it. And as long as you're remediating it in that period of time, then you're meeting the contractual and regulatory commitments. But we haven't done that for security and privacy. That's the problem.
Yeah, because like that means that whomever the regulatory body, the ones that dictate those compliance frameworks, needs to put those thresholds, right? What is acceptable for how long, what's the level? So you move from a black and white, check the box or not, you're saying, to a framework that is more continuous, that have maybe time frames, and it sounds way more complex for the framework itself to introduce it, right? So how do you think about that?
Yes, so the good news is most of the standards and frameworks don't expect you to be perfect.
Okay.
When an auditor analyzes you, they actually see how you've been compliant over a period of time. And they want to actually see what you did when you did have non-compliance. So they look at, do you track non-compliance as a risk? And how did you remediate it? And did you remediate it? Did you treat it as an exception? So auditors actually have that capability to evaluate you for non-compliance for short periods of time. The problem is in legal contracts, we don't do that. And that's the change that has to happen. Legal contracts. So for example, many legal contracts have uptime SLAs.
Yep.
Your SaaS service will be up 99% of the time or 99.5% of the time.
And ways
But they define how they measure that
and
ways to compensate. That's right.
Ways to compensate and how you're fined if you're not addressing those numbers, which I think this might be a good way for the legal departments to feel more in control, is that if you break the contract, what are the contingencies? What are things that need to happen if you're not hitting those things? Versus what happens now, because right now, what you do is there's this attestation process that somebody sends you a questionnaire, you answer the questionnaire, and somebody takes a look at it and says, that kind of looks maybe okay, and says, okay, we're good. And a lot of times it's also, think about it, it's the questionnaires stand between the business starting a process that they want to do. So right now doing the security questionnaire basically stands in the way of two people that want to start dating. So think of this as like your mom making you do a security questionnaire before you go out on a date with somebody.
No, that would be my dad, if anything.
Yeah. and then basically everybody says, yeah, we swear we're going to do everything that's the questionnaire says, gone. And then nothing happens.
So tell us a little bit about companies that come to work with you. Is it typically early stage companies like Didi's company, like Oort, that is sponsoring us? How do you come about it? How you help them? What's kind of like, because like I know we've been through SOC 2. It's a big undertaking for an early stage company. So
or
what's
a late
the
stage company?
Okay.
I did it in Cisco. Trust me.
Yeah.
There's a division of people that do this.
Yeah, we have two kinds of customers. One are companies that really don't want to do compliance at all. I asked Didi, do you want to do compliance? Didi looks at me like I'm an idiot, right? Why would I want to do compliance? I don't want to do compliance. But you have to do compliance, otherwise you can't drive sales.
Yep.
There's not a single startup that I've met. Yeah, there's not a single startup that I've met that wants to do compliance out of the goodness of their heart.
Yep.
So you help them.
They're doing it to drive sales.
Less painful? Is that the thing?
Well, we do three things. So the approach we took, because we got frustrated by the whole check the box activity. So the approach we took was, can we build a product that helps you earn the trust of your customers? So we don't call it compliance, we call it trust assurance. So the bar that we create is, can we put you in a position in which you're confident about achieving compliance in a way in which you're willing to be transparent about it? The thing that you missed saying about Didi's SOC 2 report is both the times that Oort got their SOC 2, they had no exceptions in their SOC 2 report, which meant that the auditor looked at Oort and said, you've been doing all the things perfectly well the entire year. We're happy with it. There's no exceptions. So the first thing we do is we put you in a position where you can have assurance with your compliance program. But the way we do assurance is we do programmatic verification. Yeah. So a human doesn't have to be checking the work. The machine does the work for you. That's part one. And then part two is we use AI to take that data and respond to the security questionnaires. Because again, you're doing compliance to drive sales. So how can you help the sales team? By making it faster to showcase your compliance as part of a sales process. So that's our value proposition.
Yep.
So
to
it's
the smaller
visible
companies.
To people in sales to be able to go show it.
Yes. One of the cool things there is that they provide this nice, cool browser plugin that if you are stuck with answering somebody else's security questionnaire, the plugin basically says, stick answer here, stick answer here, stick answer here, stick answer here, which means that now I've done through the motion
Saves you time.
A lot of time. And
Okay.
it also saves me time because I'm able to delegate this to the SEs and the salespeople. So basically,
That's
right now I need to deal with maybe 5 questions out of a 200 question security questionnaire versus
right.
dealing with the whole 200. Because everybody, I can delegate this to an admin to answer most of these questions in an effective way.
That's right.
It's like the dream of SEs in early stage startups.
Exactly. There's also
Totally right.
Sravish is also short selling the amazing CS team that he has, because one of the things is I've started with a lovely lady called Alana, and now I'm working with Sarah. Both are awesome, and basically they wag their fingers at us occasionally when we stop looking at the system when we should, because the system tells us a lot of things, but occasionally you need somebody to politely, gently say, you might want to consider doing this, or how to leverage new features. Like some things you need to manually attest, but if a new feature comes along, you don't chase this because when you're an engineer such as myself, somebody points out and says, you know what? Now our auth 0 is fully automated. Done. Checkbox. We just got rid of another form we need to fill out. And having somebody in CS that is sensitive to our needs and understands what we care about and what we don't care about is really important. And to remind the product is there and is becoming more valuable over time. So very kudos to building that team.
Thank you. And Didi, I really appreciate the shout out to Alana and Sarah. They're exceptional human beings, and they're absolutely fantastic.
Yep.
Always great to have great people on the team.
By the way, I don't want to short sell Satya either. I think we wouldn't got our SOC 2 without her help with some of the program there as well. So
Satya has the perfect name for her job because her name in Sanskrit and Hindi means truth.
Okay.
And it's the perfect name to have if you are in the assurance and compliance space, because you're all about the truth.
Yes. Yes.
The Didi and Lital Show will return in a moment. The Didi and Lital Show is sponsored by ORT. In today's world, identities are the perimeter protecting the organization and are the most exploited vector by attackers. If your security teams are struggling to maintain control of identity management tools, ORT can help. ORT offers a centralized platform for discovering, monitoring, assessing, and remediating identity threats to your business. While most security platforms can take weeks or months to start identifying and remediating risks, with ORT, your security teams can get started in as little as 30 minutes and start securing the identity perimeter immediately. ORT will surface the most critical vulnerabilities and give your security teams the recommended action steps. Start your trial today at ORT.io. That's OORT.io. The Didi and Lital Show is sponsored by Hunters. Hunters is a SaaS platform purpose-built for security operation teams, providing unlimited data ingestion and normalization at a predictable cost. Hunters helps SOC teams mitigate real threats faster and more reliably than SIM. Visit hunters.ai to learn more.
So tell us a little bit, a lot of us are struggling. Lital and I were talking in the car about how do you do the CS motion? How do you do the GTM space, especially with a space, as we mentioned a little bit in the sidebar conversation. Compliance is not ITDR, it's not threat detection that everybody says, oh, threats, hunting, blow up.
It's not exciting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you might be excited. Sorry. They didn't mean to disparage the compliance area.
Not at all. Not at all. I've been doing this for 20 years. This is my third startup. And I've had the privilege of selling software in a variety of vertical markets. And I can assure you that compliance is one of the more boring vertical markets.
Oh my God.
And so one of the approaches, and Lital, I think you'll appreciate this. One of the approaches we took before we even started building our team and building our strategy was we took a step back and said, how are we going to be different in this boring market. And we went and did a bunch of research on all of the various companies in this industry.
Yeah.
And they all looked the same. They were blue in color. They had shields and spears in their marketing. And they use marketing jargon words like seamless and automation and all-in-one and end-to-end.
Oh my God.
And they all look the
Every
same.
space in security has those jargon words. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And I said, how are we going to be different? What's going to make us stand out? And so we intentionally came up with a phrase, which we call joyfully crafted. And we defined joyfully crafted as having 4 pillars. The first pillar is everything we do, we're going to try to be meticulous. So do it as crisply as possible and don't do it anything more than that. Number 2, we said everything we do is going to be approachable because people don't understand compliance. So how can we take out the jargon words and make it easy to understand? Number 3, we said everything we do has to be human. We have to be funny. We have to make Didi feel anxious sometimes. We have to make Didi feel bad sometimes. We have to make him feel guilty sometimes. We have to make him feel happy sometimes. But everything we do has to be human. And finally, there should be a certain elegance about it. Can you bring elegance to this? Because it's so crass. This whole industry is fear of God. Like everybody wants to put the fear of God in you.
It's like you're listening to our podcast.
Right?
I love
and
it.
So we said,
with the humanizing.
Let's be joyfully crafted. So everything we do, whether it's marketing, whether it's people we hire for customer success, people we hire for support, how we design the product, everything we do has this joyfully crafted objective, and we measure it, and we try not to push things out or hire people or do things that are not joyfully crafted. So everything you'll see in our marketing tries to hit that bar, and so far it's pretty good. It's pretty successful.
This is like the Marie Kondo of compliance. Like, does it make you happy?
Yes. Yes. No,
doing your compliance is joyfully crafted. I love it. It is so differentiated from everything I heard. I have to say, even in B2B software, it's very differentiated. So kudos, I love it. And I love the idea of humanizing it, making you feel angry or anxious or worried or make driving action. I guess that's what you want to do, right? Because if Didi looks at it, you want him to act. If he is not in compliance with part of it, go down. So how do you drive it in the product? I'm kind of like, I'm interested. I'm sure we have a lot of product people listening, and they're probably thinking, okay, is there a specific UI UX shticks that you put into it to drive those emotions? Really interesting.
Yeah. So first of all, I'll say I don't think we do it perfectly yet because it's a long journey to get it right.
Sure.
It's a vision. But so far, what we've done to enable that human interaction is to do 3 things so far. The first is, how do we make Didi proud, another human emotion, proud about sharing the security and privacy posture, both with the internal stakeholders, the board of directors, et cetera, but also with the customers. So we try to showcase all of the positive things that have happened and tie it to business impact. So the first UX hack that we did was, instead of Didi saying, I'm secure and I'm doing everything from a privacy standpoint correctly, how can we enable Didi to say, my security and privacy program helped generate and support $5 million worth of revenue this quarter?
Absolutely. That's the best.
Yep.
Yeah, I could see.
So it's a different value proposition.
Oh, yeah. And like, so many people in security would like to prove that the actions they're taking actually have impact and positive ROI. And it's so hard to prove. So if you can do it, wow, it's not just pride. You're driving business. It's like,
you're driving business.
Yes, it's the best thing anyone in our business could do.
Yes,
that's right. And so the value proposition there for us, and to put it in just a few words, is to elevate GRC, governance, risk, and compliance, into a profit center from being a cost center. So that's sort of value proposition number one. So
Absolutely.
give pride to the GRC team, right?
Amen.
I am generating revenue.
Yep. This is
Right?
awesome.
That's number one. Number two is we say, okay, what is the mirror image of that? The mirror image of that is move the conversation from being about risk or fear or something like that to trust. And the way we do that is we say, we are the custodians of trust in our organization. Sales and legal has gone and signed all these contracts and made all these commitments with our customers. We are protecting those commitments, and we are ensuring that we are a trusted organization with our customers. So we are the custodians of trust. So we help you prove how much liability you're protected against. That's number two.
Cool.
And number three is we scare you.
Yeah.
When you are breach of liability.
Yes, I like that kind of move between the good, medium to risk in the UI part.
Yes.
It really helps people focus in the dashboard to say, oh, and the kind of the red coloring in the back. It makes people be aware that something is not going the right way.
Yeah. And the thing we're working on right now is how do you federate that down to the individual employees? So for example, if I came to you, Lital, and said, you need to take your security awareness training course next week, and you get that email, your shoulders are going to droop. You're going to feel sad. You're going to say, nope, I don't want to do security awareness training. I have a day job. No one's going to want to do it.
It's an awesome security training.
Yes.
We had somebody here before, Gabby from Wise, and they have fun security training. So if it's fun, maybe you don't feel it. That's another thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're trying to bring companies that bring joy to security clients. So yes, amen.
I love it. But if I came to you and said, Lital, I want you to take the security awareness training because this aligns with $30 million of contractual commitments, and it is required for us to drive sales, and it's required for our SOC 2. And without the SOC 2, we have 3 deals in our pipeline that won't close if we don't do it. Now, if I can translate your activities to business impact,
absolutely,
then you as a responsible employee will do it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. It's not like, oh, I get this email from IT and HR and like, yeah, okay. It's like Friday afternoon, I'm going to do it. Yes. That is great. I have a feeling that with this approach, we actually can have compliance that is not just compliance, but actually improves the security posture of an organization, which is
that's right.
What the ideal compliance would be. It's not going to be okay. We're just okay doing. We had an episode talking about doing the bare minimum, the good enough.
Yeah.
Neither of us want any organization to do the bare minimum when it comes to that.
Yeah.
We understand sometimes many organizations, they do the bare minimum, but I wonder if your approach can help organizations move from the bare minimum to actually being secure, really well secured.
Being secured. And actually, one of the things that they do, one of the things that I was telling my team when we were talking about the product was it helps you kind of adhere to your Atkins diet. Think of a lot of these security programs being like in an Atkins diet. Everybody spikes in, then spikes out, spikes in,
any
spikes
diet,
out.
Not just Atkins.
Yes.
Whatever diet.
Exactly. But this one kind of makes sure that you have a program that you actually know why you're doing this. Of here are your end goals. Here's where you want to be. Here's your...
So it's not just a New Year resolution that you drop when Valentine's Day comes in?
Exactly. Exactly. And then you come to measure your bathing suit in the summer. You say, oh, crap.
So you actually look great in summertime.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm past the looking great era, but you can still pull it off.
I'm in compliance with my routine.
You're very much in compliance with it.
Consistency is a thing in life. We can have big conversations. I think in everything you do, I think that is the thing. People think, and I love going back to your point about the doctor, not looking just on your weight at a certain point in time, but rather monitoring it over time. Everything in life, to have a change, a meaningful change, to have, progress, it's about consistency and not the one-time thing. And I think this is the problem with a lot of those one-time efforts. I'm going to do something now. I'm going to connect my MFAs. I'm going to sign into Okta, and then I'm okay. I'm in compliant with SOC 2. But you don't actually take care of ongoing monitoring it. I'm learning, right?
Yes,
and
exactly.
Making sure over time you actually do the things, you actually improve. It's true for everything, for dieting, for sports, for fitness, for security. There is no one of, and I think it's more
totally
like this. You go and improve with like small steps that also go down. I think that's the mentality. I think that's not how everyone thinks about it. And that's part of what we need to preach to, ongoing improvements, right?
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you. I think, in fact, speaking of health, we have all these infomercials on TV where people come and say, I'm going to help you lose 6 inches in 2 weeks, and I'm going to lose 30 pounds in a month, and
then
like
you're going to gain it back faster than you lost it. Yeah.
That's totally right. And I'm super frustrated in this industry when there are Silicon Valley companies and California-based companies that raise $100 million in capital, and they have all this pressure to grow. And companies like Vanta and Drata and others come and say, we're going to help you become SOC 2 compliant in 2 weeks. And we're going to be 3 weeks. And that company said 3 weeks, and we're going to do 4 weeks. And I think that's just irresponsible marketing. I think coming and saying that you're going to help somebody build a security posture and a privacy posture in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I think that's bad. I think that sets a bad precedent.
Yeah. We're struggling with this ourselves right now on the Ort side, because we're thinking, how can we create an identity program that's similar to that motion? To create a continuous identity program, to understand that the metrics that we're giving you is not just metrics. It's basically a path to being deliberate and making sure that you don't have an IT person still in your system 6 months after they're gone. You don't have half the sales team inviting their own Google accounts into their main accounts to kind of share documents with us. How to educate people towards to be deliberate and continue to do this. Yep. Our producer is giving us a hint. We have a game at the end of our at the end of the episode that we like to play with our guests. Hopefully you're okay with that.
I love it.
Awesome.
Let's bring it on.
I suspected you'd be okay.
I don't know anything about this game, but I've just agreed to it. So let's go.
Let's go. Okay.
And now Lital and Didi present Prove You're Not a Robot. 3 final authenticating questions for our guest.
Cool. So, question number 1. If you were a cybersecurity superhero, what would be your name, and who would play you in the Hollywood or Bollywood movie that would follow? The reason I'm saying this is Vikram kind of educated us on the fact that he doesn't want a Hollywood movie, he wanted a Bollywood one. True.
I can tell you the name of the person who would play it. It's the number 1 superstar in the whole world, the best movie actor ever. His name is Rajnikant, and he is a Indian movie actor.
Okay.
Cool.
And what was the second part of the question?
What
would be my superpower?
What would be your superpower, and what would be your cybersecurity superhero name?
Cybersecurity superhero name. Never even thought of that in my life. I think I'm going to stay on brand.
Yep.
And since in TrustCloud, we're building a trust assurance platform, I think it's going to be some version of trust something. And as I'm trying to think about this in real time, the only thing I can think about right now could be trustee.
Trustee. Or trustor.
Love it.
Trustor.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. Do you have a favorite hacking breach horror story that anything that relates to, or in this case, could be an audit related horror story of coming to something that is challenging?
Yeah. So 2 companies ago, this was about 10, 12 years ago. We had the privilege of doing business with a 3-letter acronym organization from the US government. And this was right after when the war on terror started in the mid 2000s, and they were trying to do a lot of data encryption work to decode a lot of files that they were gathering from various terrorist organizations and laptops and so on and so forth. So they were using the software we produced in that company to do a decryption of data. And they wanted to validate that our product was secure because it was highly confidential information that was staying in our data. And so it turns out, without telling us, they tried to hack our platform. And suddenly we got an email from them saying, we're in your product and we have access to all the data. And here's how we did it. And we just got really scared.
Wow.
But the good news is, they were pretty transparent about how they did it, and they were willing to sort of work with us on fixing it and solving for it. But the good news, bad news. Bad news is they sort of got into our platform. The good news is they also told us all the various things they tried that they couldn't get into our platform with. But then they found this one breach, and it was a pretty cordial conversation, but we were very, very tensed for that period of time. And there was a 7-figure deal that was in line because of that issue.
That is scary, and also sometimes we need to understand that the government has resources that most hackers will not invest.
That's right.
To do these things, including the ability to hire people that other people can't.
And being meticulous about really reviewing any line of code and finding those things that's hard to do. Yeah, absolutely.
The last question is, what was your first computer? The reason I'm asking that one is because I think I've met Sravish in person, and I think you and I are more or less the same age, and that's a question that I always like to ask people of our kind of age bracket.
So Atari was one of the first sort of video game consoles that I had, and
what did you play on Atari? You remember?
I started with Pac-Man. Pac-Man was the first game I had.
Sure. All of us.
Pac-Man, and then we had ping pong, and it was just all the basic games back in the day. And the name escapes me, but it was a computer console that sort of came with the video game station. That was the first one I had, and I did basic programming on it, and then I ended up getting, I think when the Pentium 186 came out, we got one of those, and that's what we started working on after that.
Awesome. Sravish. Producer Dave, you wanted
Was it the Commodore 64?
It's Commodore 64. That's the one.
That was it.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're all old enough to know what it is.
Yes. I had the VIC-20, which was the predecessor for the 64. That shows, again, my
aging ourselves.
So
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you another quick part of that.
Yes.
I came to the US as a 17-year-old kid to start my undergrad in math and computer science, and I got admitted into a math and computer science program, and I got my first email and internet connection after I came to the US. So until then, I did not have network connectivity. And it just blew my mind that you could type something on a computer and get access to a whole bunch of information that wasn't physically on
channels and all this. Yes,
it's crazy.
That was me in '93 when I first installed the TCP/IP package.
I mean,
from our carrier,
chatting with people on IRC messages.
Exactly.
Wow, yeah, that was mind blowing. I remember that as well. Awesome. Well, thank you for being on the show. It was a pleasure.
Sure.
I'm sure people can find you on LinkedIn and find you online. If you're looking for better compliance program, check, please. Thanks for listening for the Didi and Lital show. We're here weekly. Rate and review us wherever you get your podcast. Please, if you want to be on the show, reach out to Didi or myself. Thanks, Didi.
Thanks, Lital.
Thanks, Sravish. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Have a wonderful day and a week.